Hey everyone, welcome to the Explainer. So today we're looking at what I think is one of the most profound cosmic ironies of human existence. Think about it. We spend literally billions of dollars, dedicate our absolute brightest minds, and build the most insanely complex machinery just to search the stars for signs of life. We are so desperately looking up. But what if I told you that the ultimate alien world, a place of just unimaginable strangeness and completely undiscovered life, is sitting right beneath our feet? Today, we're unpacking exactly why 90% of our own planet's biggest ecosystem remains a complete and total mystery. Okay, let's dive into this. As of right now, get this, approximately 100% of the Martian surface has been mapped by orbiting spacecraft. We literally have high-resolution images of every frozen dune, every single valley, and every crater on a planet that sits 225 million kilometers away from us. But back here on Earth, the very planet you and I are standing on right now, over 80% of the ocean floor has literally never been seen, mapped, or explored by any human or machine. Crazy, right? There's actually a saying in the scientific community: you know more about the surface of Mars than you do about the bottom of your own ocean. And, we hear things like this a lot, but I really want you to let that sink in for a second. This isn't just some clever metaphor. It is a literal, measurable, and honestly, kind of terrifying fact. We literally have better maps of the moon than we do of the seabed beneath the Atlantic Ocean. To figure out why this massive blind spot exists, we've got to look at the sheer physics of our planet. So let's move into Section 1 by the terrifying numbers, the ocean's volume. To understand the mystery here, we first need to just try and wrap our heads around the massive physical volume of the ocean. The ocean covers 71% of Earth's surface and contains roughly 1.335 billion cubic kilometers of water. To put that into perspective, that is enough to fill about 5.3 trillion Olympic swimming pools. But to really grasp what that means, let's do a wild thought experiment. 2.4 kilometers. If you could somehow take a giant cosmic bulldozer and just flatten out all the land on Earth, like if you leveled every single mountain, hill, and plateau, and spread the Earth's crust completely evenly across the globe, this number right here represents the depth of the water that would cover the entire planet. The whole surface would be submerged under roughly 2.4 kilometers of water. When we talk about Earth, land is actually the exception. Water is the rule. And hey, speaking of mountains, let's look at the extremes for a second. The average depth of the ocean is almost 4 kilometers straight down, but the deepest point, the Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench, plunges an astonishing 10,935 meters beneath the waves. Look at this comparison. If you took Mount Everest, the tallest peak on land, and dropped it straight into the Challenger Deep, the mountain would completely vanish. In fact, its peak would still be submerged by more than 2 kilometers of water. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is what makes these extreme depths truly mind-boggling. It's the impossibly hostile conditions. We're looking at 1,086 bars of pressure down there. That is over 1,000 times the atmospheric pressure at sea level. It would crush a human instantly, no question. The temperatures are hovering right above freezing, and there is absolutely zero sunlight. It's a realm of absolute darkness and crushing force. And yet, completely defying all logic, life actually exists down there. Which brings us to Section 2, the alien Twilight Zone. Specifically, we're talking about the mesopelagic zone. Let's look at what's actually lurking in the dark. So, the Twilight Zone is the region between 200 and 1,000 meters deep, and it actually holds the title of the largest living space on Earth. Down here, sunlight fades to almost nothing, the water is freezing and heavily pressurized, and until very recently, this vast expanse was almost completely unexplored. We honestly just assumed it was mostly empty, but it's not. It is absolutely teeming with life that makes our best science fiction look completely unimaginative. Just to give you an idea of how much we are still discovering, in just the first half of 2026 alone, scientists found over 1,100 completely new species. In one 2-week expedition off the coast of Brazil, the research vessel Falker found over 30 new species. They found siphonophores, which are these glowing, pulsating chains of light that grow to over 40 meters, making them the longest animals on Earth. They found comb jellies shimmering with iridescent rainbows. And my personal favorite, larvicians. These are creatures living inside these complex mucus houses that are actually more closely related to us humans than most of the invertebrates around them. All of this in just 2 weeks in one tiny patch of an ocean we haven't even really begun to search. The things that live in the Twilight Zone have evolved some extreme adaptations to survive. Take the barrel-eye fish, for example. It has a completely transparent dome for its head, and inside that clear tissue, its bright green tubular eyes can rotate independently to look for prey above it while keeping watch for predators below. I mean, it literally looks like it was designed by an alien engineer. Then you have the vampire squid. It's an evolutionary relic that lives in water with almost no oxygen. When it's threatened, it turns itself inside out, showing these wild spine-like projections. And it doesn't squirt ink like a normal squid. It actually releases a cloud of glowing mucus. How crazy is that? And this brilliantly illustrates one of the most magical things about this zone. 90% of life in the deep ocean is estimated to be bioluminescent, meaning they produce their own light. You see, the deep ocean isn't dark because nothing lives there. It's dark because they don't need the sun. They generate light through chemical reactions to hunt, communicate, and confuse predators. If you drained the ocean and looked at the Twilight Zone, it wouldn't look like a dark, empty abyss. It would look like a galaxy of billions of tiny, pulsing stars. All right, let's move to Section 3, Daily Migration, Earth's Greatest. Because this deep-sea freak show isn't just fascinating, it's absolutely vital to our global survival. Every single day, a process called the diel vertical migration occurs. Basically, as the sun sets, trillions of organisms, from squid all the way down to microscopic plankton, travel up hundreds of meters to the surface to feed under the cover of darkness. Then, when dawn approaches, they sink all the way back down into the abyss. So, why does this matter to you? Well, because as they feed and sink, they carry carbon inside their bodies down into the deep ocean. This is the ocean's biological carbon pump. It is constantly pumping carbon dioxide out of our atmosphere and locking it away. It's truly one of the most critical climate-regulating mechanisms on Earth. And the sheer scale of this is honestly hard to comprehend. This vertical movement happens in every ocean, every single day. By sheer biomass, it absolutely dwarfs the wildebeest migrations of Africa, the caribou herds of the Arctic, and the monarch butterfly migrations of North America, combined. It is literally the largest movement of life on the planet. And until very recently, we barely even knew it was happening. Which brings us to our final section, Section 4, Unknowable Ocean, Why It Remains a Mystery. If this ecosystem is so massive, so incredibly alien, and so critical to our climate, why does 90% of it remain a mystery? Like, why haven't we explored it? Well, so the crucial point is that humanity's exploration priorities are heavily skewed. We have sent well over 600 people into space. We launch telescopes, we send rovers to scrape Martian dust for microscopic traces of life. But down to the deepest point of our own ocean, exactly 27. Let that sink in. 27 people. More human beings have walked on the surface of the moon than have visited the bottom of the Mariana Trench. The reality is, we have hit a major technological wall. The deep ocean isn't just unexplored. With our current technology, it is fundamentally unknowable. The pressures are just too extreme. We're talking about forces that warp steel and crush equipment like tin cans. The volumes of water are so ridiculously vast, they completely defy our mapping technologies. And the complete darkness and freezing cold mean we cannot build permanent habitats. We simply can't stay there. All we can do is send machines to dip down, observe a tiny sliver of the dark for a few hours, and then hurry back to the surface. And because of these barriers, we are left with a staggering reality. It's estimated that 90% of ocean species are completely undiscovered. And we aren't just talking about animals that are rarely seen or poorly understood here. We are talking about entire ecosystems, entire food chains, and entirely new categories of life that are operating right now deep beneath the waves that no human eye has ever witnessed. We live on a planet that is mostly ocean, and we have absolutely no idea what lives in the vast majority of it. The ocean is not empty. The ocean is full, and it leaves us with one final undeniable question to ponder. Are we simply too afraid, too physically limited, and too distracted by the allure of the stars to look down? The final frontier isn't millions of miles above our heads. It's literally just a few kilometers below our feet. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and next time you look out at the ocean, remember, we haven't even scratched the surface.